The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has now introduced a new eligibility quota for their Best Picture Oscar, and not any of the other Oscars, but to now be eligible for a nomination for Best Picture, well, you have to follow some new guidelines and quotas. And what we have here is a somewhat confusing and very redundant set of criteria that filmmakers need to adhere to for them to get a Best Picture nomination. And these criteria are all to do with the diversity, as in racial, of your gender, of your ethnicity, of your sexuality. So with these criteria, I mean, they're split up into 4 different sections. And with each of these 4 sections, you have to meet a certain amount of the criteria within each one. So the 4, the first one being the big one, on-screen representation, themes, and narratives. So that's to do with the actual content of the film, who's acting in it, as well as what the story is about. Is it about a gay black woman or whatever? But it's really the last 2 that are the ones that are just going to make this so easy to bypass this eligibility. And these are to do with Standard C, industry access and opportunities. It's basically just get an underrepresented group and get them to intern, get them to be an apprentice. And then Standard D is also for filling up underrepresented groups and all that. But this could be to do within the marketing, the publicity, and distribution teams. So it really has sort of nothing to do with even the creation of the film as a whole. And with that, you've met 2 of the standards, and you're now eligible for Best Picture, even if you make a film like 1917, The Irishman, The Lighthouse, films that take place in a historical period, which was mostly white, or films that are revolving around not an ensemble cast, but only 2 or very few characters or actors. But what seems to be somewhat confusing about all this is what the Academy is really trying to say about diversity. And the problem with it is that the way they're doing it, it's very American-centric, because they're saying that races like Asians, Africans, Hispanic, Indigenous, to what? The Americas, the United States. Is that specifically what you're talking about? Because this just solidifies the fact that when it comes to the Oscars, particularly Best Picture, despite what happened last year, it's still a very USA-centric category. In fact, all of the categories are very USA-centric. But this is really proving that, because this quest for diversity, or really this quest for equitable representation, is all from the USA. So a film like from last year, Best Picture winning Parasite, would be eligible for Best Picture under the Standard A, because of on-screen representation, because the entire cast is Asian, as in South Korean. That's on-screen representation diversity from America's metric. But from South Korea, where the film is, there isn't really diversity. They're just representative of their own country. So what the fuck? What are they trying to say? What is the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences saying about global diversity? Because as the Academy president says, the aperture must widen to reflect our diverse global population in both the creation of motion pictures and in the audiences who connect with them. And on the Oscars website, they say the standards are designed to encourage equitable representation on and off screen in order to better reflect the diversity of the movie-going audience. Do you mean the American movie-going audience? I mean, it doesn't seem like they're reflecting the diversity of the world. Otherwise, they would have quotas for foreign films so that more foreign films fill up the Best Picture category. So I get what they're saying. Even though they're bullshitting me, they're saying the diversity of the global movie-going audience. No. You're saying to reflect our diverse global population. No, just the diverse American population. So let's just go with that. This is all American. This is all to do with who's being represented in American films today. I don't know how this applies to films like Parasite. Well, I know how it does, because Parasite, it's like they're considering it an American film. And look how many South Koreans are in this film. Wow, it's so diverse. So just going with that then, just to clarify that this is all just American, and we're going with the metric of what we're seeing in terms of diversity in American films today. As I say, the standards are designed to encourage equitable representation on and off screen, even though it's really gonna be on or off, mostly off. If you happen to have a film that has the representation, then you don't need to worry. But if you don't, then just get a fucking black intern in. Just get a gay distributor. But again, this is just appeasing the equity quotas that are being thrown around. And it seems that the filmmaking world, which includes on and off screen, which seems to include also the advertising world of films as well, is really jonesing for what we're saying, equitable representation, as in the movies, the people making the movies and in the movies are completely one-to-one representative of the American population. Is that right? Is that what they're going for? Doesn't seem to happen in a whole lot of other job forces. It's not really happening in the NBA or in more important job forces like in more important workforces like teaching, which is mostly women, which is 78% women. No real equity going on there. Oh no. Ultimately, I think that this move is just a farce to get woke points and to get a lot of news coverage, because obviously the Oscars are a dying animal out there. These new guidelines, of which you only need to adhere to some of them, I don't think really are going to have much of a real world difference, and are not actually going to push that much representation forward on or off screen because of how tokenistic these guidelines can be. But with that said, I'm definitely not going to say that I want them to be even more stringent and strict. I definitely say, fuck this, fuck these equity programs, fuck all these guidelines, get rid of them, work from the source if you want to bring in representation for underrepresented groups, as in find the areas, find the ways of being able to bring in underrepresented groups into filmmaking if you so wish. But this way of doing it is just such a redundant, non-effective band-aid solution that doesn't do anything. But I do think, as usual with these equity programs, that something like this, if it was actually effective, would be a pretty wrong move, because you know what? Fuck your equity programs. Not all workforces have to be equitable, as I've mentioned before. Some are filled with more of these people, some are filled with more of those people. You can do all you can to get rid of the barriers, to identify the barriers and get rid of them, and work that way. But obviously that's not what we're doing, because there are no barriers. So I'll just end this impromptu video by saying, fuck the Oscars and fuck crackers.